Today we will be presenting lecture number 38, that is for the last week of this course, week number 16. We will talk about multi-user capacity. So far we discussed capacity of point-to-point wireless links. So the question is, in wireless communication system, and especially cellular communications, we don't have only single user, single base station. We may have a single base station and multiple users. So we need to talk about and find out the overall capacity of the system in which we have multiple users. So this system is called multi-terminal system. So we need to study the capacity or the performance in a multi-terminal system. So in terms of that information theory, we have results on multi-terminal antenna theory or multi-terminal systems. It is called network information theory. So it provides some answers, but we will not go into information theoretic concepts for multi-terminal or multi-user systems. In a cellular systems, all users communicate only with base stations. So therefore, we primarily have two kinds of multi-terminal or multi-user channels. So one is called multiple access channels, which is called uplink or multiple access channel MAC or MAC. The other one is the broadcast channel, in which we have communication in the downlink. The base station broadcasts data to all the users. It is called downlink or BC channel. First, we will consider multi-user channel without fading. So later on, we will also consider fading. So the first thing that we will consider is uplink channel, in which each user makes a AWGN channel with the base station. And for simplicity, we will talk about only two-user Gaussian MAC, in which we have one base station and we have two users. X1M and X2M are the symbols or the data transmitted from terminal 1 and terminal 2 respectively. So this is the channel to the base stations. We have uplink, we have this base station. At the base station we have YM, that is the received signal at base station. So how is YM constructed? It is constructed like this. YM is equal to X1M plus X2M plus WM, where X1 has a power constraint of P1 and user 2 has a power constraint of P2. WM is complex normal distributed noise, 0, mean and variance N0, and the channel AWGN channel is IID. So assume that R1 would be the rate of user 1 and R2 the rate of user 2. So now we don't have a single capacity, but we have a capacity region. We don't have a point in a space to define capacity, but we have a region in space which defines multitude of capacities. So what is this capacity region? Capacity region is a set of all rates R1, R2, because we can have two rates of individual users such that users 1 and 2 can simultaneously communicate reliably at rates R1 and R2 respectively. This set has this definition that is called capacity region. So this capacity region is known for the Gaussian MAC by information theoretical results, by achievability proof and the converse achievability proof. So let us just understand this region first, and we don't go into the details of deriving this region. So the capacity region consists of all R1 and R2, in which R1 and R2 is set, such that we have three conditions now. The first condition is R1 is smaller than log of 1 plus P1 over N0, and R2 is smaller than log of 1 plus P2 over N0, single user definitions. These two are single user definitions, and now we have third condition, in which we have this third conditionality, which is basically the sum of two users, or this is called the sum rate. So the R1 and R2, the sum rate is defined as it should be smaller than log of 1 plus P1 plus P2 over N0, in which we have this P1 and P2 added together. These are the power constraints of the user 1 and user 2. So we have single user signal to noise ratio. We can call this SNR1. We can call this as SNR2, but this SNR is different. It is kind of SNR plus SNR1 plus SNR2. So you can go to the appendix B.9 for justification of these three conditions from your book, Vishwanath and say fundamentals of wireless communications. Now we see the details of these points or these three conditions. The first two conditions above, what they say? They say that the rate of each user cannot exceed the capacity of the point-to-point link. So if we have R1 is smaller than log of 1 plus P1 or N naught, so R1 cannot exceed this rate. This is a single user rate for a point-to-point link. So with the other source being absent from the system, so as if that we don't have other source, we only have R1. Similarly, we don't have R1, we only have R2. So these conditions are defined by that. So these are called single user bounds. The third condition says that the sum rate of both the users together, if both the users are transmitting together, that sum rate, which is R1 plus R2, cannot exceed the capacity of the point-to-point AWGN channel with the power constraint P1 plus P2. So this third condition means if we have R1 plus R2, the HNR cannot be more than P1 plus P2 over N naught. So for proof, you can go to the information theory books. Now this is a very reasonable assumption. So if two users send independent signals, so the aggregate received power will be the sum of the individual powers. Now that even when user 1 is transmitting at its single user bound, user 2 can transmit at a non-zero rate. So if R1 is equal to log of 1 plus P1 over N naught, then R1 plus R2 is equal to log of 1 plus P1 plus P2 over N naught. So if you want to calculate R2 from here, then R2 is equal to log of 1 plus P1 plus P2 over N naught minus log of 1 plus P1 over N naught. So this is given by log of N naught plus P1 plus P2 over N naught plus P1. This is equal to log of 1 plus P2 over N naught plus P1. So it is as if user 1 is Gaussian interference to user 2. So that is the whole point. It doesn't, so it means that if R1 is transmitting at its full user bound, R2 can still transmit, but it would only be interfering with user R1. So we can have more points. So the capacity region is described as a pentagon. You see in detail, it is defined as a pentagon which has 5 points: 1, point O, point D, point C, point B, and point A. So let's go into the detail. How are these points validated in the region? How are these different points in this region achieved? Let's see first the point D. Point D gives you the point in which user 2 does not transmit and user 1 transmits at rate log of 1 plus P1 over N, because this x-axis is representing rate R1 and y-axis is representing rate R2. If we have point D, it means that only user 1 is transmitting and user 2 is not transmitting. What does point A says? Of course, it will be the opposite of point D. User 1 does not transmit, but user 2 transmits at rate log of 1 plus P2 over N naught. So P1 and P2 can be different. Now let's see what are the points on the line joining A and D. What is the line joining A and D? This is the line joining A and D. It's a triangle. It makes a triangular region. Okay, point A and D. This region. So point A and D defines the time sharing between the strategies for point A and D. It means that point B, so now we talk about point B. So point A and D, it is the time shared between the strategies of point A and D. So we can have any point here on A and D. So it means that the system, the two users, they share the time. So if we have a point in the middle, it means they equally share the time. If we have a point here, it means that R2 would be spending most of the time. If we have point on the lower side, it means point user 1 would be sharing most of the time. Here the user 2 would be sharing most of the time. So what is point B? This is point B. Point B is a scenario in which user 2 transmits at log of 1 plus P2 over N naught, its maximum rate, and user 1 transmits at log of 1 plus P1 over P2 plus N naught. So user 1 kind of acts as an interferer. So How is the decoding done at this point? The decoding is done in this way. The receiver decodes user 1, assuming user 2 as interference, a Gaussian interference. So the receiver subtracts user 1's component from the received signal. The receiver decodes the user 2 from the signal obtained after cancelling user 1's signal. So this is called a successive interference cancellation decoder. Now we have another point C. This is the point C. This point C is opposite to the point B. In this case, the user 1 transmits as log of 1 plus P1 over N0 and user 2 acts as a interference to this user 1, which is given by log of 1 plus P2 over P1 plus N0. So it is basically the same as point B with the decoding order reversed. So what are the points on the line joining B and C? Now we have a line between B and C. So this line we are talking about now, the points joining B and C. So similar to this A joining of the line between A and D, we will have a time sharing between the line joining B and C. So users can share time. So time sharing is the strategies of point B and C. So what is the point E? We have another point, which is this point E, which is made by drawing a perpendicular from point B to the R1 axis and again a perpendicular from point C to the R2 axis. Point E is strictly inside the capacity regions. So at this point, the user 1 achieves rate log of 1 plus P1 over P2 plus N0 and user 2 achieves rate log of 1 plus P2 over P1 plus N0. So this is equivalent to the conventional CDMA system with single user receiver. Point number 4. Now we have points in the triangle OAD. So what is achieved by the points in the triangle OAD? What is the triangle OAD? This is triangle O, A and D, this triangle, inside this triangle. For the points in the triangle OAD, only one user transmits at a time. So there is a time sharing. Simultaneous transmission is not necessary. So for B and C, simultaneous transmission is necessary. So point E is using conventional CDMA also uses simultaneous transmission. So point number 5. More R1 and R2 points are achievable without simultaneous transmissions than the triangle OAD. Consider orthogonal multiple access as follows. Say user 1 uses the channel for alpha fraction of time and user 2 uses the channel for 1 minus alpha fraction of time. However, while transmitting, users 1 and 2 use power P1 over alpha and P2 over 1 minus alpha. So on the average, they still are using P1 and P2 respectively. So this leads to the following possible R1 R2 pairs. So R1 is equal to alpha into log of 1 plus P1 over alpha N0 and P2 is equal to R2 is equal to 1 minus alpha log of 1 plus P2 over 1 minus alpha N0. So time sharing is given here. It defines by alpha. So alpha varies from 0 to 1. We get the curve shown in the dotted line in the figure in the previous page. This scheme achieves the maximum sum rate possible at one point. How can we define alpha? Alpha can be defined by the respective powers. Alpha is equal to P1 over P1 plus P2. So we are talking about this region, this dotted line. So maximum sum rate for given alpha can be achieved at these points. So thank you very much.